This is just a quick video on one-point perspectives to supplement the Flourish at Home curriculum that I'm helping to write. So in the Flourish at Home curriculum, we actually study DaVinci and one of his major works, The Last Supper, as a way to understand one-point perspectives. So I'm just going to quickly run through a real basic one-point perspective, just to give you a bit of an idea of how to do it. I will create some videos that are a little bit more in depth and take one-point perspectives into scale and those kinds of things. So to start with, we just need a point right in the middle of the page. So that's our 1 point that we're going to use for our one-point perspective. From that point, we want to rule a line to each corner of the page. Now I'm doing this really dark because I want it to be seen on video, but it's better for you to do this really lightly because if you do make a mistake and need to rub it out, then it's better for you to not have to rub out the dark lines. So from there, we basically want to create a box. This is going to be the back wall. I'm not measuring anything here, so mine's going to maybe turn out a little bit wonky. So if you want to measure them, it's a good idea to make sure all of these lines are parallel to the edge of the paper, and that way you'll get a nice rectangular box that isn't all crooked like mine is. So you can actually see from here that we're starting to get a bit of a perspective happening. So these here are the side walls. This bit here is a ceiling and this is the floor. So what we want to do now is we want to add some bits to the side so that we can see that they are the walls. So we're going to put, in the Last Supper, there's these archways that come across here. So we're going to put some things in there. Now everything we do is going to come back to this line, okay? So we've now got a bottom and a top for these archways that we're going to be doing. I'm just going to freehand them in, but I'm only going to fit 2 in here because what happens with these archways is as they get closer to the edge of the page, so closer to us, they actually get bigger. So that's part of the perspective as well. So if we just do the same thing on this side, and we'll put these archways in. So as I said, this is just a really quick version of it. I'm not measuring any of my arches here. I'm not even making my lines very straight. So what we have here now is the walls with the archways happening. Now we can also put, so this here is the floor. So we're going to put a table in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a table. So this is the front edge of the table here. And then if we bring that back to the vanishing point there, we can see we've got a bit of depth to that table. Right now, it's hard to see because of all the lines, but I'm actually going to go over this with a permanent texture just so that you can see where these lines go. All right, now we can either draw like trestle table legs on here, or we can make this into more of a curtain or a tablecloth. So I'm going to just make this into a tablecloth just because it's easier for kids to do the tablecloth because then they don't have to create legs and what's happening under the table as well. They only have to concentrate on what's happening on top of the table. Alright, so I've got a tablecloth there. Now I'm just going to go back over. So this is the back wall here that we're marking in now. And we've got these bits out here, which are the top architraves, and these bits down here, which are the bottom corners of the room. And then we also, I'm just going to ink in these archways. All right, so as a final thing that I like to do with this particular one is if we measure across the top here, we can say measure every 5 centimeters. And then from those measurement points, we can draw lines that go back to the vanishing point. And then we can do these little lines across like this too. And these lines are going to get closer together as they get back towards this back wall, which is part of the perspective as well. So I just like to do that because it gives a little bit of idea of the perspective of the ceiling. If you have a look at the Last Supper that DaVinci actually painted, you'll see that he has a lot of perspective in the ceiling. He has these bits in the ceiling that look like little square moldings, which give some perspective to the room. And you can also do the same with the floor. If you want to turn it into a room with floorboards, you can actually, I'm going to do it every 2 centimeters across here. Right, and every single one of these lines is going to come back to the vanishing point. Now, when you do a one-point perspective, you actually end up getting a lot of lines that you don't need. So, I'll show you this again after I have rubbed out the lines. But for now, I'll just ink in some of these. So you can see how those, like just bringing the lines out to those, like we marked every 2 centimeters and then we brought those 2 centimeter lines back to the vanishing point. You can see how that looks like floorboards in perspective. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rub this out and then I'll give you a look at it all rubbed out and clean. Okay, so as you can see, I've just rubbed all of the excess lines out, and now we have a really nice perspective that we can actually draw our own things into. So if you wanted to draw people behind the table here, or you could draw some decorations hanging from the roof, you can do whatever you want to now that you've got this blank perspective here. I did just go through that really quickly because I didn't want you to have to watch like a really long video about it. But you can slow that down, have a look at it a bit slower. You could also purchase the Flourish at Home curriculum, which I'll put some links to in the description of this video once they're all up and running and ready to buy. So thank you for watching, and enjoy creating.